like I keep saying, well, everybody's so uncertain about everything. They don't seem to know what's going to happen.
Bourbon. Straight.
Well, as I was saying, I wouldn't worry nearly as much about the atom bomb if it were to kill you right out. What scares me is that awful gas that deforms you.
Yeah. That would be bad.
Yeah.
It's the drink that you don't pour. Now when you take one sip, you won't need any more. You're small as a beetle, or big as a wheel. Boom, atomic cocktail.
Once upon a time, there were two warring nations, the Soviet Union and the United States. These two nations had their share of animosity toward each other. Unlike the United States' democratic paradise, the Soviet Union was communistic. The US would not allow the Soviets to take European territory under its wing and have them suffer the terrific burden of such a flawed system of government. So the Americans went on their merry way, flexing their nuclear muscles in an effort to suppress communism from threatening the liberty of countless Europeans, Koreans, and their own public. Their nuclear bomb helped keep the world at ease, because as the public exclaimed,
Well, I guess there's nothing for us to worry about. We're the ones that have the bomb.
on the 29th of August in 1949, America was faced with a horrific fact. The Soviet Union was the second nation in the world to successfully create an atomic bomb. And from that day, the race was on.
During the Cold War, panic engulfed the nation. The American public was on edge. They felt insecure and exposed to all the devastation a nuclear attack could create. The nuclear attacks on Japan left a scar and an uneasy feeling for both the American government and the public. The 15-kiloton bomb dropped on Hiroshima created a landscape of possibilities that the public did not want happening on the home front. However, the Soviets were creating an environment where those possibilities were bordering reality. The public turned to their voice of reason, the government, their fairy godmother, so to speak, to guide them through this time of need. The government was ready to protect the people from the Soviet threat and quell the hysteria that was brewing.
Yet the question was still in my mind. How can we educate the people of the United States against the dread, psychological weapon of mass panic? Against rumors that can spread like wildfire? The type of psychological warfare that a potential enemy would use.
The Federal Civil Defense Administration was born during this time period as a means of showing civilians the light. They reach out of the country in countless ways by enlightening frightened people and guiding them to survival. They established duck and cover drills,
Cover. Don't wait. It's a bomb. Duck and
encouraged
cover.
people to stock up on essentials, and promoted one of the most popular ways of survival, the fallout shelter. The fallout shelter seems to make survival promising, almost tangible.
Just what can you do if fallout comes your way? Find the best shelter you can. The more solid substance you can put between yourself and the fallout, the better.
The fallout shelter was its own creature. It came in different shapes, forms, and every single one preached the same tenet: safety. The FCDA set guidelines, and many people followed them. The fallout shelters were ubiquitous, and many were very accessible to the people because of the various companies who created these shelters for profit. Although the types of fallout shelters varied, they all had a few basic principles. The FCDA placed emphasis on the shelters being deep underground or in a basement to create as much space away from the obliterated land as possible. This land barrier created a cushion to absorb radiation and seal away fallout, the radioactive dust that comes after an atomic explosion. The most sought-after material to create one of these shelters was concrete because of its density. A fallout shelter also had to be equipped with enough essentials to last for at least 2 weeks.
What really made nuclear war unique was not just the amount of damage it caused, but also the amount of radiation exposed. However, the government took hold of the situation and built a new nation of well-prepared civilians ready to combat anything that would fall upon them.
There will be no great reason for the existence of armies. They'll have undermined our enemies sufficiently before hostilities begin, so that the military organization they possess will be incapable of being used in the hour of need.
When the Cold War reached a level where one superpower could easily destroy the other, the United States and the Soviet Union both adopted a method called game theory. Game theory was intended for economic use, but the two warring nations quickly realized how valuable it was for forming war strategies. The United States government viewed nuclear weapons as any other weapon in their arsenal, but game theorist Thomas Schelling convinced the U.S. that nuclear weapons were only useful as deterrents. Nuclear weapons, if used in any other way, will only guarantee absolute destruction to both nations in the end. This doctrine was known as mutually assured destruction. Mutually assured destruction caused a game to develop between the US and the Soviet Union, and because of mutually assured destruction, a balance was formed. If one nation changed this balance by building more nuclear weapons or missile defense shield, the other would do the same. During these games between the two superpowers, the atmosphere was always tense. Because there was such a massive distrust between the two nations, even a defensive move would be taken as provocative through a miscommunication. For example, building fallout shelters. Building fallout shelters would make it seem as though you were expecting danger, and why would you expect danger unless you were willing to start it?
In the 80s, people, doctors, and many scientists were set on revealing to the public how the war would turn out, how it wasn't anything like the fairy tale that the government established in the 1950s. With the hydrogen bomb, all the so-called preparation would amount to nothing. Many wrote books, made movies, and wrote articles in an effort to spread the word. A nuclear war would not pass in just 2 weeks. It would be there, its effects lingering with mankind for many years to come. Life as we know it will become obsolete in a sense, and a hole in the ground with 2 weeks of food and water would not save you from the after effects of such a massive war. They wanted to make it known that the only way to survive a nuclear war was to not have one.
In the end, the two superpowers decided to stop toying with the lives of millions of people as if it was a game. They realized that MAD was a foolish doctrine and that it would only end in the survival of a few people underground. So they agreed to dismantle most of their nuclear weapons and let the world live in peace, free from fear of total destruction.